We are hoping for some additional board members, so we may need to vary from our agenda a bit. So I'd like to read, as usual, our ethics statements. Conflict of interest reminder. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before us at this board meeting? Please review the agenda. And if there are no conflicts of interest, please state them. Please state. Okay. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. Thank you. So if you will please just take a moment to review. I guess we can't approve. So any questions about the agenda? All right, we have no one signed up for public comments. This time we will move over approval of the minutes, and if we have a Booster Club report.
I don't think we have one for this month. Thank you.
Well, Kevin's here, so we will hear from our student government.
So at last month's meeting, I noted that SJ was in the final stages of preparations for prom at the farm. I'm proud to say that everything ran smoothly, and students who went greatly enjoyed it. SJ members Lacey Jones and Ivy Lampy, along with both faculty and para-volunteers, were able to prepare the venue nicely with some decorations, and they worked hard the day before and of the prom, so we're very thankful for them. The event was supplemented by generous donations of food, drink, and supplies for members and volunteers as well. I feel as though the decision to make this year's dance at the farm was a very good one, and I'm confident the next year's could go just as well. As you may recall, one of our juniors, Lexi Flack, was leading the student-organized second annual blood drive. The drive was a success and exceeded the donation goal, actually, so we're very happy with that. She would like to express her gratitude for the opportunity and excitement at the prospect of repeating the success again next year at our third one. We had a good array of both parents, members of the community, students, and even faculty members help out for the cause of donations. I feel that our school was represented well through the promotion and coordination of this event. Student Lieutenant Crozier is organizing volunteer efforts for this year's Special Olympics. Our school will have our own booth this year, actually, so planning starts tomorrow on that. For more details, I'll probably have something prepared by next time. Model United Nations at Appalachian State University is coming up as well. It's planned by Ms. Miller and Mr. Casey. This event is a wonderful opportunity for students to showcase their command of debate, become familiar with parliamentary procedure, and contextualize their knowledge on historical and international politics and relations. I've gone the past 2 years and have really enjoyed it, as have my fellow delegates, so that's something we're very excited about. And I see that it's something that we're actually going to discuss today. So that's pretty much it for everything that's been going on with our students at our school in the past month.
Well, you all sound very busy. And I just went to the farm for the first time, so it was beautiful. I really enjoyed it, so I'm glad the prom went well. Okay, we'll now have our director's report.
Thank you. As far as staffing updates go, we do still currently have a 4th grade vacancy, but that's being filled by a long-term substitute, so that's going to serve us well to the end of the school year. We, as a staff, have just finished going to several education career fairs in the region, and we'll follow up with potential candidates as needed. At this time, about halfway through the employment agreement cycle, we should finish all those up in the next day or so, and we'll have a better idea where we might have some potential vacancies. We do have a recommendation for the board to consider in closed session for the intermediate academy leader position today. And our senior academy counselor, we finally have secured enough applications that we feel comfortable moving forward with interviews, so that process is underway. And other than that, we expect to have a good update for you next month as to where we are with staffing and where we might be having some vacancies and things like that. As far as business updates go, as I mentioned earlier, we were reviewing our custodial services contract, and with the support of the facilities and finance committees, decided to release a new RFP for custodial services for next year. With our new building coming online and a reevaluation of our service needs for the gymnasium, it just seemed prudent to start fresh with the new RFP. So that will be out and circulating now. We'll try to get that one underway so that we can bring you a recommendation, hopefully by the April meeting, but the May meeting at the latest. Also, as far as business goes, we did hold a lockdown drill today. Hopefully none of you noticed. But our teachers and staff and students did a great job of following all of the protocols. We, of course, identified a few areas for improvement. That's the purpose of doing the drills. We even had some additional law enforcement on campus to monitor and watch and help us look for things that we can improve upon. But I want to do a special recognition for our students and for our staff. There was not a peep on this campus during the drill. Everyone followed the protocols to a T. They were very quiet. They went to the corners of the room. We have identified that some of our students are a little bit taller than we would like for them to be, and it's hard to keep their legs hidden from some of our windows. So we're going to work on trying to come up with some coverings for windows and things like that to make sure it looks like an empty classroom. But I went into several classrooms and thought that the students weren't even in there because they had found such a great hiding place. In fact, one of our staff members had such a great hiding place in her office space that no one even saw that she was in there, to let her know that all was clear. So everyone really took it seriously, really followed the protocols, listened for all of the alerts. It was an excellently run drill for us. As far as enrollment updates go, we're currently at 915 students, so we're still holding at the number that we've been at for a while. We did start the year, of course, with 933, but that's a relatively normal attrition rate for us at this point, pretty low. During the application lottery, we were able to seat 28 kindergarten students above and beyond the siblings that were already seated with the sibling priority, and we were able to seat 7 new 10th grade students. For all other grade levels, waitlists were created, and for those grade levels as well, waitlists were created. We do want to share with the board and talk with Ms. Dixon about this, that during a final review of all of the submitted applications, we did identify that 5 applications that were submitted via email actually went into spam folders, and we discovered that after the lottery had run. We did consult with the Office of Charter Schools and felt that the best way to do the least amount of harm and to be fair was to rerun the lottery internally with all of those applicants included, and based on where they fell with that second lottery, just seat those individual students that way or place them on the wait list that way. That way anybody who got their seat during the original lottery was able to maintain that, because no priorities were missed. There was no errors in the way that we assign priorities or anything like that, and Office of Charter Schools fully supported that because it allowed fairness for those that weren't originally run, as well as allowing for those who are already seated and already waitlisted to maintain whatever number or seat that they had received. As a result, 2 of the kindergarten students will actually be seated. The other 2 will be placed on the waitlist appropriately, and the 11th grade student, it was a waitlist already, was just placed in the waitlist appropriately. We have already started internally reviewing protocols for online electronic applications versus papers because currently we still use a paper application that can either be submitted via email, in person, fax, or mailed into the office, and that's created this opportunity for those hardball firewalls and filters and things like that to allow those to get into the spam account. So we're going to create an online tool that will allow people to directly submit the form electronically, and we'll have a computer station set up in the front office as well for those that might need to come onto campus to fill out the application, to make sure that they all went to the same repository and they only are submitted in one way.
And so is this form a web form, or is it something that is a fillable that then they submit?
We're looking to design a web form that would be direct wherever you are in your space. It would go in directly. I have talked with Ms. Denning as a representative from board bylaws to determine whether or not that would require a policy change to the enrollment policy. So we're going to review that as well to see if that mechanism fits with the current policy, or if there would need to be adjusted to the policy to allow for the electronic submission.
And given that we're now moving the application process to completely online, it is going to need to be ADA compliant in all ways, as well as the rest of the whole web page, that we need to look at that. But especially the web form.
And at this point, that concludes my director's report. Subject to any questions?
Madam Chair, we have a form, if I'm not mistaken, so this is kind of like the backtrack.
Approve the agenda as well as the minutes in one motion, if possible.
Certainly. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the,
I'll make that as a
as a motion.
motion.
Okay. Do we have a second on approving both the agenda and the minutes in one motion?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that motion is approved. Okay. So your, Susan's director's report was not going to include plus update, or no? Okay. All right, we have no items that I know of for the consent agenda, and so we'll move into our standing committee reports with finance.
We all get it.
Right. So just a couple of things to go over. The Finance Committee did meet, and we have the Vanguard contracts that we renewed for 2 years. That's on our modulars here. Dave was there, and we talked about that. He did work with them, and I think they renewed for the same contract price. The other thing, we also renewed the Arcadia contract, and I think that's the same thing also. So moving forward on that. Yes, and we would like the board approval on moving forward with those 2 contracts.
I make a motion that we approve the recommendations of the Finance Committee on the contracts that have been discussed.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passed.
I think the one other thing is we need to approve the budget for 2018, 18-19. So, February budget. Okay.
So,
And you have that in front of you. It was in your packet, so. Can I make that motion? Yes, so I make a motion that we approve the February budget. Yes.
any discussion, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passed.
Facilities,
Two things, and I try not to blur the line between the New Start Facilities Board, but just as an FYI, we did meet with the USDA last week, signed all the appropriate documentation, and everything is moving in line with the closing up the funding and receiving the funding from the USDA. We are being locked in at whatever the interest rate was before the last bump up, so around 3 and some change, I guess. So it's a very good good rate, and that's good for the next 60 days or so until they finally do the paperwork and stuff. So we're locked in where it's reported. If anything should happen to go up, we're good for that. We met with Jimmy Boykin yesterday. Okay, I was going to say today's Wednesday. No, today's Tuesday. We met them with them yesterday. They are running 21 days behind due to because of snow, rain, but also wind. But they feel comfortable that they can move that up or catch that time up. They'll be adjusting the fencing area, and as well as they've heard staff concern regarding testing and upcoming testing and noise and things of that nature. Staff did address some of the ongoing, not issues, but making them aware of school policies such as no tobacco on campus and things of that nature. So I think that we got a great working relationship with the contractor and everything, and so they're moving right along. Colors and flooring schemes and everything is going to be identical to what's already here, so we're just going to keep it simple and keep it uniform. The last thing, just as an FYI, to make sure this board is aware of the facilities board, there's been some discussion, internal discussion about the road system and what's been right away and what may or may not be designated to the town. Initially, when the school was first created and established out here, we did not own the front 12 acres combined, and that the intent was to turn this entranceway over to the town back over here behind the modulars as we started acquiring the front land. And the reason for that is that we needed 2 points of entry onto our campus, without being one and the other one being over here next to this facility. As we started accumulating the land, we did not turn that over. It's still in the schools with the facility's name. But there's been some discussion, should we do that? Because there's benefits to that. One being, should there be maintenance on any of the streets? What's our responsibility? What would be the town if we turned it over to the town? It'd be the town's. And then also some of the lights that would be on town property or town streets. The town would have to pay for the overhead lighting, the street lights. We kind of weighed the options right now, especially with the fast tracking of Kelly Drive on to Buffalo Road, or over to Buffalo Road. We just don't know the traffic patterns, so we would much rather hang on to that as an asset right now to figure out what we need or what we may not need in regards to stacking and traffic flow patterns for us. So we just don't want to release that and then try to come back later and start gating off entrances and not being able to because it's not officially ours anymore. So, of course, we'll keep this full board aware because, and as well as staff, as it relates to just internal traffic pickup and drop off. Drop off is not a problem. The pickup is probably the main concern because people tend to start showing up and for not early release, but for releases. And so we just want to make sure that we can adequately control that. And as Kelly Drive starts to build out, take into consideration businesses that may be out there and with cars stacking up in front of businesses and being a good neighbor. So
One other thing, Chris, and I know you were aware of it, Gail Browning sent us an email. We have 2 Eagle Scouts on the site that are wanting to do projects. So one of those is a long jump area with a pit on it where I think it's about a little over $3,000 that the guys want to spend. So we're kind of looking at where we need to put that. And we're trying to take into consideration the moving of the modulars in a couple of years and that type of thing. So, I think you saw my email where I said, we will work with them, but we're trying to keep them from having to tear it up whenever we, just.
as long as everyone knows that if they put something out there, whether it's something that we want to make sure is aesthetically pleasing, that's something that's up to standards of a track and field type of thing, but understand that in a couple of years it could be uprooted because we need to move it, but that's the key thing. But until we reach that bridge, we won't worry about it.
The dirt that's back there is actually Jimmy Edwards and him. I stopped by there and talked to them one day. They were hauling that dirt on, and they said they would just donate it to us. So dirt's like $250 a load, and they probably already put 10 loads out there. And I talked to him, and he said that some of the holes and stuff in the backfield, he said they would be willing to come help bring a motor grader and stuff and grade it out and stuff. So if you just see that back there, it's just, you wouldn't think dirt's that expensive, but it's free dirt. It's good dirt. So. And the same thing with the state. I don't know the additional that's been put out there. I don't know the state that was actually picking up that section right there. I stopped talking to that guy too, because they had it piled up and got to haul it off somewhere. So anyway, if you see that, that's what that is. And we'll work on spreading it out and filling some of those holes in over the summer after it dries.
Well, I know Jimmy is very good and has done a lot of donated time and resources for that. So I welcome that if we need to make it an official.
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Any items from personnel?
Up closed session items, but I think open session.
Academic affairs, we unfortunately did not have our March meeting, and we have it scheduled for April, where we will continue to talk about the PLUS and some of the items that we're planning to launch. So like the update on the website and moving in that direction.
What date is that, no? Just kidding.
I think it was the first Friday in April.
The spring break.
Is that spring? No, then it was the next Brad Senate. I believe Brad Senate. Let me see.
He did schedule it for.
They say the 13th. I know it's
I'll see the calendar invite for it, but the first Friday following spring break would be the 13th.
okay. Resource development.
So we did meet, actually had a really, probably the best meeting I think we've had to date around resource development. We had representation from Booster Club there, as well as representation from those that had done the reverse rifle and spearheaded. And we had just a really good dialogue about, you know, coming together as a holistic group and looking at how we do things throughout the year. What we landed on was, and we'll finalize some of the details, but at a high level, what we want to do is in the fall sometime is actually host kind of like a fall festival that's really for the core academics of the school, et cetera, and have it be a combination of the things that are done now, because we're kind of piecemealing a bunch of stuff. And then we talked about we want to continue to support, you know, the athletic side of the program, and they were doing things in the springtime. So probably what we said was, in the springtime we'll kind of do a bit of a like a spring bash, spring fling kind of thing, and rally a bunch of those mini efforts together in support of our athletic program, like in the springtime. So we'll probably do this two bigger things, collapsing some of the stuff that we're doing now. One of the other things that we talked about that, excuse me, that administration highly recommended is they want to look at, from a big part of what some people see as raising money is actually an attempt by groups to actually do community give back events. And sometimes our stakeholders are seeing that we're just raising money. Well, it's not necessarily true, right? So, for example, a jump rope for heart type event or some of that stuff, while there is money involved, the money is for another purpose. And so what we talked about, and they're going to finalize some of the details around this, is kind of moving, since we're moving to that 3 academy model, is soliciting the stakeholders, the teachers, et cetera, get some feedback, but having each academy have some community-related event that they sponsor for the year at the academy level. Because right now what's happening is anybody that says we're going to go raise money for, you know, Joe Schmo nonprofit down the street, people just go do it. And it's a lot of overhead in there. So that'll be one of the things that we finalize over the summer and prep for next year, is what would be the community give back. And then the way everybody in that academy, you know, can kind of rally together. We think it'll have more impact. And we'll break it up in kind of the fall and the spring festivals, with the fall primarily just for all the school stuff, and then a spring related event kind of towards the end of the school year. Kind of treat that as kind of a celebration for the kids, and they can get out and you can have little ball tournaments, we can do some stuff outside, etc. So that was where it led. Richard was there from the Booster Club. He was pretty excited about it. Thought it was a really way to rally, because if you really dial it back and look under some of the budgets, most of the money that they were raising was coming from, like, for example, their lunch program and their donation. So a lot of these other things that we've heard about, like people, well, I'm tired of being asked for $10 here, $20 there, they're really not significantly contributing to the monetary side of what Booster Club runs. So we think if we kind of rally that together, we can kind of minimize some of the overhead. So
what, in the fall, is there so say the last reverse raffle, where did all the money go? What is it used for?
Well, it just got let me say that and let Susan chime in. All of the reverse raffle money went back into the operating budget of the school, because we had a line item for fundraising associated with the school. Now, as far as those expenditures across the budget, I don't know.
Well, what I'm saying is that if people give towards something. So if I can't answer where the money goes to, then that's not creating any sense of need or urgency with someone who, they're like, I don't know where the money goes. It's just we all get together and the biggest thing might be they think they're going to get money through the reverse raffle. And so we may want to think about creating a fee, whether it's whether it's academic materials or whether it's, facilities or something where they can tie themselves to a particular cause, which may up why they're doing it, instead of just generic kind of
Well, and we did publicize that the funds raised from last year's reverse raffle were used to do some upgrades in the gymnasium with the basketball goals, getting the drop-down basketball goals. And it was also what allowed us to increase the professional development budget for our teachers. We more than doubled it so that they would have more access to outside learning opportunities as well as bringing some in-house training in. And so that is what we shared, but it sounds like it didn't get across that way. And that was going to be the intent again, was to identify collaborative projects between athletics and the school.
Yeah, I think it would serve us well to really model after very successful other school fundraising events. And most of those are very thematic and they do a lot of sales, not just on buy the ticket, but buy the idea that you're supporting this.
And that's a lot of what the resource development committee has talked about, is how do we stop doing little bits of good and really talk about what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and you're right, we talked about, we wanted to have a strategic marketing campaign associated. I don't know if we ended up with, said, a month of giving or a couple weeks of giving, but you want to come in with your marketing material that says, hey, this is what we're going to do for this period of time. Here's the list of events, and oh, by the way, it's in support of XYZ. It was impossible to do that when everybody was kind of out running around running 50 different random fundraisers. You couldn't have a centralized coordinated messaging. So yeah, that'll be something we work on in the summer. The goal is to have it when school starts back in the fall, that we're ready when people start coming on campus. Well, we say, hey, we do two major fundraisers through the year, the fall and the spring. This is the purpose of them. This is what they're for. These will be the kinds of activities that you can sign up for. We've talked about having pledge cards. We had some people come to us and say, you know what, I just don't want to ask money. I just want to write a check. So we'll
Right.
do something.
And I would be happy to work on it, but I will tell you point blank, if you're having something in the fall, you need to start today, not in the summer.
We started last week.
Okay. And I would be happy. And I think there is a tie-in that we can make with Plus. That was the whole purpose, to try to have a concept that things could be attached to, so even fundraising.
Yeah, and I think a key pivot for us is going to be things that people are doing that are this outreach, community support as part of us growing citizens of the future. We've got to separate that away from fundraising, because there's a lot of confusion around that. I mean, I literally heard people say, oh, we raised $10,000 for Jump Rope So Hard, as if that's money for the school. Right. That's not money for the school. That's for a good cause. And so that's part of the whole academy and having a community event for those. But we want to encourage our students and our staff and our stakeholders to get out in the community as part of those events, more so than just raising money. So that'll be fun.
Very good, exciting. Board development. Jimmy's not here talking, or Michelle talking about the bylaws, so we'll hear from them next month.
I was going to follow up with what
Rodney was saying, I think we need to do a better job with our parents coming in and explaining how vital raising funds are. It's other than just, here's your packet for new charter school, and oh, by the way, somewhere in here, there's something in here that says, I mean, I think every parent needs to know that we're operating at a 30% deficit compared to traditional schools. And I mean, they need to know that. I mean,
Most of this is about perception.
yeah.
So you have parents who walk into a very beautiful building on a campus where you're constantly growing. There doesn't appear to be need. So if you don't sell that, they think things are good, and in fact, that's one of the reasons why they're coming here and not a school that has leaky roofs and furniture from the 1920s, which doesn't look like our school. That's why major fundraisers work, because there's a constant need. There's, American Cancer Society, we haven't found a cure. There's a need for that. But I don't think they necessarily just outward lens. Everybody's going on field trips. People do that. They don't necessarily see that this is a poor school.
Yeah.
I've had parents say that to me.
Oh.
There's a lot going on, and there's always seems to be stuff. We're building, it's looking better every single day. So they're like, you all must have money somewhere, and you don't need it from me. So I'm not saying our school has to look different, but I think we've got to sell it a different way, the messaging, yeah.
To your point, with the success of the roundtable series we had this year, there was a leftover session in April that wasn't sort of called for with any internal topics. And so we did go ahead and designate that as a new to news, and we gave all of our applicants who just got seated an invitation specifically to that, so that we can start laying the groundwork for better understanding what a charter school is and what our charter school is, and making sure that before they even fill out that enrollment, or recently after they fill out that enrollment packet, that they're getting strong education, and certainly finances and funding will be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, I think it's really, continued excellence takes resources. That's what, you came here because we're excellent, and we do a lot, and that takes constant growth in our funding stream. And I think they can attach theirs, because they want to be excellent, so that means a little bit more to keep us at that level. I think that's the message that would resonate with them. Not that we get less than because we look better than most public schools, quite frankly, so I think that's not going to sell as much.
And we do, actually, it's funny, we now remember, we had a long dialogue about how do you message to stakeholders about what kind of hooks them that they're giving with a purpose, and that purpose. So we did bounce some ideas around on it, but we'll work on that. But it's a good point.
Okay, any old business for the board? New business, which honestly I had a piece of new business and it literally went right on my head.
Well, I have 2 items, so hopefully that will help.
Okay.
One is, in your packet, is the official approval for the Model United Nations trip that Kevin talked about earlier in his remarks. It is an in-state trip, but it is overnight, so therefore requires board approval. In your packet, you'll see the information regarding the trip, and that it has already been approved by Mr. Smith internally, so we're just seeking board approval for that overnight learning opportunity for our high school students.
I make a motion that we approve the overnight trip.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passed.
Also before you is a request from staff to utilize $5,000 worth of professional training, professional development funds to have a hosted Canvas training on site. We know that one of our school improvement goals, and as we talked about, PLUS and academic instructional tools, that we're really underutilizing this really important resource, and many of our teachers just turn it on and start clicking through. And while we do have some power users on campus, to be exact, we feel that having the Canvas team come on site and deliver a full day training for all of our staff to set that baseline so that every single staff member fully understands the power of the tool and how to start using it as an instructional tool, not just a communication device, will really allow us to leverage this resource as a learning management system. What's included for your information is just the base cost, and it's my understanding we did get a negotiated rate. I kind of looked to Dr. Silver for that one because she did negotiate for us. This is lower than what they would normally charge for the same service. Part of, if we get approval tonight, then we follow up with them to do an internal identification of needs of staff, send that out, and then they build a customized training module for the level of users that we have on campus. So if we have a big sort of a power users group, they would go into a different session and start at a different level set and continue climbing. And then if we have some baseline users who are still trying to figure out how to do more than just simply post communication items on there, then we can send them to that training so they can start growing in their capacity. It's my understanding that when we adopted Canvas however many years ago, we never really had a level set training for all staff. So we've sort of been plugging away, doing the plug and play kind of thing all the way along, and this would really give everyone a good level set, and then that would make us much stronger as we onboard new staff in the future, and we can have stronger orientations for them.
So when does Susan, it's one of those things where, you know, you can train people on it and then they go back to doing what they were doing before. Is there something in their contracts or policies or procedures or something that's going to hold people accountable? Because there's no return on investment if we don't use it, right? And I understand everybody's got their own flavor. You want an iPhone, you want an Android, you get the big, but at some point, some things you may have to standardize on and people have to be held accountable that they use it. Have we got that in place?
Basically, that's what's allowing us to do that. That's why we're recommending this. What's held us back is we couldn't give them the training that
Chicken
they
and
need to
egg
hold them
problem.
accountable to using the tool. So by doing this, we then would follow up with regular, I want to say monthly check-ins.
Who is the element
And then in
manager?
charge of their professional development plan. Sorry.
Who's the administrator for campus?
In terms of, I believe it's Brad. Bradley.
Okay, so Brad would be the quality control person? And not like, I mean, because usually your LMS manager not only just does the back-end stuff of making sure it works, but they also basically do what Rodney's talking about, and that's they do oversight of now, he's not an instructional designer, I don't think, but I mean, he could do oversight that if you're saying everyone can use it, you can run reports to see if everyone uses it. And he could set the standard for what usage means, which training is not gonna, because they're gonna come in and tell you, you all do whatever you want. These are how to do all the elements, but you have to come up with policy and procedures and basically what Rodney's saying, the standard for what instruction looks like with your learning management system. They're not gonna tell you that. So when someone wants to use and move from default to advanced level, who do they go to? Brad? I mean, shouldn't Brad be like the expert?
Yes, he would be your expert, and I also have that level of access where I can go in and run usage reports. I can even drill down and say, okay, this teacher has used a discussion board feature, but has not built any content. So I can drill down to that level if I need to. So he's not only has that particular access, but he is listed as our.
So he's doing more the technical support and you're doing the pedagogy?
He can do both, yeah. I can do that as well. Also, the part that you're talking about, what happens once they reach that level and they need to go higher and they need more, by us bringing them in to do the face-to-face, we also gain access to their online modules as well, that they can complete self-paced on their own. Also, we get access to, if a teacher wants to log on to their Twitter chat or any other chats that they're doing, which they even have rooms like Read Blue Button, something similar to that type of environment where they go in and you can watch them do different things like that. So we gain access to that as well.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to get to is you kind of have this concept of minimal viable usage. Basically, if you're going to training everybody, there has to be some standards for saying what's the minimum that if you're a staff person at News Charter and we have this system available to engage with our stakeholders, what is it they must use it for? Non-negotiable. Then there's always power users that can make it do list-based stuff, but what I'm more concerned about is at the base level that we don't have a common expectation that says, if I've got a student in 3rd grade and I've got a student in 8th grade, and I don't know all the capabilities of Canvas, I'm using an example, that if it provides a blog form capability that one's using it this way and then I gotta go over here to some web page, HTML document, somewhere else for another student. So it's that level of standardization at the basic usage level that I think we've got to get to.
I will say, as a student who's been here since my freshman year, Canvas is a platform that I use both in the classroom and outside of the classroom for homework and certain things, and it's very valuable. It is very obvious which teachers are more well-versed in the capabilities of Canvas and which ones are not taking it to its full potential. And if this expense is something that the board believes will be able to elevate those teachers up to that level of skill of being able to really take advantage of everything that is possible with the platform, then I feel like it would be very valuable because it is something that's used every single day and makes certain things inside a school setting much easier. much more accessible, much faster, much more seamless for both the teacher and the student. Certain things like quizzes being taken, that stuff can be monitored, statistics are much easier to be found, and time settings can be placed, and entrance of any kind of forms or paperwork that you're doing can be all done through Canvas.
Right, but the key is you said it. You said
Yeah.
the ones that you
Yeah.
said it's very helpful. What we're concerned about is the ones that don't use it. And you can have a training, but it doesn't mean that the ones that don't use it today, just because they went to training, will use it tomorrow. And it's that gap that has to be closed.
Let me ask a loaded question, and I don't want you to name names, but in your opinion as a student, the ones that are using it, do you classify them as better teachers compared to the ones that are not using it?
Are they more effective?
Or more effective? Yeah, that's better.
The answer may surprise you, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
I feel like some teachers are great teachers, but aren't just as familiar.
Okay.
I think one of the things that we sometimes are challenged with are the sequence of things. So while we want everyone to use this, really there's a couple of steps prior to training, like internal systems, policies, whatever for this. So you've got to build that infrastructure. Then you train the people because they know actually what you want them to do. And then you have to constantly remember that Canvas is just a tool. If you're a bad teacher before, you're going to be a bad teacher just using Canvas. So if we don't really focus on the instructional design within the tool, it's still, you're not. And then you've got to build in the assessment. So are they more effective? Are students performing better with online quizzes versus when you gave them seated? That's all part of the initial part of framing out what is online learning or even having a learning management system supposed to do for our instruction. So sometimes I think we jumped in the middle and we may need to spend a little bit of time on that to give them kind of the manual, and then they can get the training.
And there are also some things, because I would classify Canvas as more of a hub for teachers to use it, rather than just a thing that can also be used. It's more, you have to make the decision of, this is going to be our main focus. This is
Right.
where most of our student-teacher interactions are going to take place on. Because some things, such as the grading portion of Canvas, some teachers use it completely just as they would any other, like any grade book, and it's very helpful because there's options that Canvas has that PowerSchool does not, and other teachers completely don't put anything on Canvas in terms of grades, and the students are more confused because, oh, my grade was different on Canvas than it was here.
Right.
Because teachers don't have that push of someone saying, hey, we're going to do this.
But you deserve some consistency on some things, and I think
Exactly.
that's what we're saying. It would be easier for the student to, if everyone says final grades will live, I mean, technically they're going to live in PowerSchool because that's the system of the school, not Canvas. So, and then if you use Canvas a little bit for grade book, then you really should put all your grades. You can't just put 2 or 3 grades and then the rest is in your green book. So I just think those are the, discussion, and maybe the power users could be 2 lead people on, kind of a little focus group to kind of start to work on some of the infrastructure, or else it may, get a little, as everybody gets on board, and then they're going to need more training, have questions, and some people do this and some people don't, and then it's going to be the whole, all the teachers, and you just want to make sure you have hold of that, I think, in the beginning. And then the last thing I say, and I'll say it twice, which, as my professor used to say, there's a direct correlation between how many times I tell you something and how important it is. Moving into this, you have got to make sure everything's ADA compliant, which is a lot, and that's all, and they don't have one thing on here that talks about ADA compliant for all of their modules and rubrics and all that. Oh, a sample, okay. Well, just, I would get that in right now, that they need to kind of talk about that as they talk about all the things you can do.
That's in the big contract where it
Okay.
organizes the list. Everything that Canvas does is ADA compliant, accessibility compliant.
It's not them, it's what the person puts into Canvas that has to be ADA. Canvas doesn't do that.
And they have a piece, they have like 6 modules just on that alone to train users on.
How to make their content ADA compliant?
Yes, it's
Okay.
6 modules just on that alone.
So, yeah, I'm not, I don't have an issue with the $5,000 for the capability as long as this is just a good discussion about making sure it's successful when we spend the money. I make a motion we approve the spend for Canvas.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Do you have another new business item?
I can't remember. I'm old. Okay, then I will entertain a motion for closed session. Yes, we received a request.
I make a motion we go into closed session for personnel.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned for closed session.